This is Ken from Last Chance Knives. Today we're going to talk about EDC folding pocket knives and try and figure out what is the best knife to carry. Now in my state, West Virginia, we have a 3.5-inch concealed carry knife law. You can carry any length blade you want, but it can't be concealed. It has to be carried out in the open. So if we're going to clip a blade in a pocket, it's got to be 3.5 inches or under. So that removes some of these knives right from the beginning. For example, this cold steel Night Force. I mean, it's an okay knife. It's tough. I've had another one of these and I abused it for years, and it took the abuse. The steel is, I believe, 420 stainless. It's okay, it's serviceable, but it's nothing special. The blade measures 3 7/8, so we're going to remove this knife from the running. Next up, we have the Benchmade Proxy Flipper. This is a titanium frame lock. It has tan G10 on one side and titanium on the other. The blade is CPM 20CV, which is an excellent steel. But your blade length, again, is 3 3/4. This is a little bit too long. Now, if blade length meant cutting edge, this knife would make it. But I've heard of cases where that's been open to the interpretation of the officer, where they consider the handle to the tip your blade length. So the bottom line is it's not worth taking a chance. There's so many good blade choices that meet the law. There's no reason to carry something that doesn't. The Spyderco Endura 4. It says VG10 steel, and it's got a high traction handle. It's very thin and very light. This is an excellent knife to carry. But again, 3 3/4 inches. This does not meet the state law. So this knife is out of the running, which is a shame because I really like this knife. Now, all the choices that are left here all fall within state law. Now, I do like to carry knives that are between 3 and 3.5 inches. So, even though these are great knives, I'm going to eliminate this Benchmade Mini Griptilian. It has a blade length of 2 7/8. The steel is 154 cm, which is a great steel, and Benchmade really does the heat treat on these the right way. It's a very solid knife. It's got a decently thick handle, and it feels good in the hand, even though the grip is a little bit on the short side. So I'm going to remove this knife. Next we have the Spyderco Delica 4. This is another very nice knife. I EDC'd this knife for probably 2 years. You can tell there's no paint at all left on the clip, except for a little bit here on the spider symbol, which I rather like how that looks. VG10 steel. As I said with the other one, this holds a decent edge and it's very easy to sharpen. This is a great EDC knife. But, like I said, I prefer a little bit larger blade than this. So I'm going to remove this one. Next we have Persistence and the Tenacious. 2 high-value knives from Spyderco. The steel is 8CR13 MOV, and it is a serviceable steel. It's nothing special, but it's very easy to sharpen. You just have to sharpen a little bit more often. These have G10 scales, not super high quality G10. There is a difference. These don't have a ton of traction, but they are both excellent knives. And if you're on a budget, these are great knives to consider, and they both fall within the 3.5-inch limit. Some of you may have a 3-inch knife limit, in which case, if you have a 3-inch knife limit in your state, I would go with the Delica 4. That would be my choice. Spyderco Mannix 2. This is in a translucent blue, and it is a really good looking knife. It's sharp. The steel is Carpenter CTS BD1. I find the steel to be just a little bit on the soft side. The point is very fine, and I actually bent this point one time just a tiny bit. It only took a couple minutes on the stone to fix it, but this steel is not quite tough enough for an EDC, so we're going to eliminate this one. This is an SE Zancudo. This is another high value knife. Has a blade length of just under 3 inches, and it's AUS 8 steel, which is another steel that is very serviceable. Not the greatest edge retention, but it is easy to maintain and easy to sharpen. This is G10 scale on one side and stainless steel frame lock on the other. Next we have the Benchmade Griptilian. On this knife, the edge goes right up to the handle, so there is no wasted space. The blade length is 3 3/8. So this is another solid choice. 154 cm, the handle's a little bit chunky, and you do realize this thing is in your pocket. So even though this is a great knife, there are better choices. Benchmade Osborne 940. This one is carbon fiber scales. It also has a S90V blade, blue spacers. It is a beautiful knife, but in my opinion, S90V steel is a little bit too hard. It takes a little bit too much work to sharpen it. All steels have trade-offs, and you have to balance how much work you're willing to do on sharpening the knife versus its edge retention. This one just crosses the line. So I'm going to set this one aside. Now we have two left. First, let's look at the Spyderco Paramilitary 2. It says G10 scales, so you can hear the difference. This has really good grip. This knife is not going to slip out of your hand. The steel on this is S30V. The blade length is 3 3/8. Has a full flat grind with a very fine point. This knife really holds an edge. S30V is my favorite steel. I feel the S30V has the optimum combination of properties when you're dealing with sharpenability, edge retention, and toughness. I don't think you can beat an S30V blade for an everyday carry. At least for what I do. That's my favorite steel in a folding knife. This is a great knife, but again, with that really fine point, you're going to have to watch. That will be a little bit delicate. That comes down to our last knife. This is another Benchmade 940. This one has aluminum scales with an S30V blade. This has a reverse tanto, so it has an exceptionally strong point. If you compare the 2 points, you can see how much more fragile this one is going to be. This point can take quite a bit of abuse. Now, I reprofiled the bevel on this. I beveled this to 22 degrees, which is the same as a Scandi. This blade cuts, it carves like nobody's business. With this angle on it, this knife would be my choice as the best EDC knife that you can get. And with the access lock, it's just amazing. You can flip it out with a thumb stud or use the access lock. I don't think you can beat this knife. If I had to pick only one knife, and that's all I could have, Benchmade Osborne 940 with S30V. See ya.